The forest beyond Ravengarde's western border was unusually quiet. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath as Dorian led his patrol through the silver-barked trees, their footfalls deliberately silent on the moss-covered ground. 4 of his most trusted warriors flanked him, spread in a practiced formation that allowed them to cover maximum territory, while remaining within scenting distance of each other. Dorian raised his fist, halting the patrol. He inhaled deeply, nostrils flaring as he caught something foreign on the breeze, a scent that didn't belong to the forest, human, with notes of gunmetal and chemical residue. "Thornvale," he whispered, his amber eyes narrowing. Liam, a younger pack warrior with rust-colored hair, materialized at his side. "How many?" "Just one." Dorian's lips thinned. "But they're using that damned scent masker again. I nearly missed it." With a series of practiced hand signals, Dorian directed his patrol to encircle the intruder. The 5 werewolves moved through the underbrush with preternatural silence, communicating through subtle gestures and the occasional meaningful glance. Years of working together had rendered words largely unnecessary. The hunter was better trained than most, crouched behind a fallen log, wearing camouflage that blended impressively with the forest floor. A sleek rifle with specialized ammunition strapped across his back. But no human, no matter how well trained, could outmatch werewolf senses entirely. When the circle closed, Dorian gave a sharp whistle. The hunter startled, reaching for his weapon, but froze when he found himself surrounded by 5 pairs of glowing amber eyes. "I wouldn't," Dorian said calmly, as the man's fingers brushed his rifle. "You're outnumbered, and that weapon won't fire faster than we move." The hunter, young, with cropped blonde hair and the hard eyes of someone who'd seen too much, slowly raised his hands. "Clever mutts," he muttered, though Dorian detected a tremor beneath the bravado. With practiced efficiency, Dorian's patrol disarmed and bound the man. As Liam confiscated the hunter's gear, a pendant fell from an inner pocket, a fractured stone that caught the dappled sunlight with an unnatural blue luminescence. "Sir," Liam called, holding up the stone, "you should see this." Dorian examined the pendant without touching it. The stone appeared to be a shard of something larger, moonstone perhaps, but altered, infused with something that made it pulse with faint energy. He'd seen similar items on hunters they'd intercepted in recent months. "Bag it," he ordered. "The Alpha will want to see this." In Kael's castle, Rhea paced the length of the library, running her fingers along leather-bound spines of books, whose titles she couldn't read. A constant reminder that she remained, for all practical purposes, a captive. "You'll wear a path in the floor," Imara observed from her perch by the window, where she was carefully grinding herbs in a mortar. "The books won't read themselves, you know." Rhea pulled a random volume from the shelf. "Can you read this language?" she asked, opening to pages filled with elegant, unfamiliar script. "Some," Mara admitted. "It's old Lucien, the werewolf tongue. Most younger pack members only know key phrases for ceremonies." She set down her mortar. "It's mostly historical accounts, pack lineages, that sort of thing. I feel like the answers are here somewhere. Why I'm drawn to this place. Why this mark." She trailed off. Mara's expression softened. "Astrilda might help. She's the only one who can read all the ancient texts. She doesn't like visitors," Mara warned. "But for you, she might make an exception." Before Rhea could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Rapid footsteps and urgent voices. Mara stood, head tilted in the way Rhea had come to recognize as werewolves, listening to sounds beyond human hearing. "What is it?" Rhea asked. "Dorian's patrol returned," Mara said, her expression tense. "They've captured a Thornvale hunter." In the castle's lower level, Kael studied the man secured to the heavy oak chair in the center of the stone chamber. The hunter's equipment lay catalogued on a nearby table: weapons, communication devices, and most significantly, the fractured moonstone pendant that seemed to pulse with an inner light. "How many of you crossed our border?" Kael demanded. The hunter stared back defiantly. "Go to hell, dog." Kael's eyes flashed amber, his patience wearing thin. Dorian, standing at his shoulder, placed a restraining hand on his alpha's arm. "We can do this all day," Dorian said to the hunter, his tone conversational despite the steel beneath it. "But you should know, when my alpha gets truly angry, he doesn't need claws to make humans talk." Kael's gaze bore into the hunter's eyes. "Or I could simply compel you," he said quietly. "Though I prefer cooperation." Something in Kael's voice, a resonant undertone that vibrated in the air, made the hunter's eyes widen slightly. Everyone in Ravengarde knew of the Alpha's ability to compel humans, a rare power shared only with the Vampire King. "I'm alone," the hunter finally said, sweat beading on his forehead. "Reconnaissance only." Kael gestured to the pendant. "And this?" The hunter's eyes darted to the moonstone shard. "Insurance. Gets us through your barrier." "How?" Dorian demanded. "Hell if I know the science," the man spat. "Something about frequency disruption. All I know is it works." Kael leaned closer, letting his control slip just enough that his canines lengthened visibly. "Who sent you?" The hunter remained silent until Kael's eyes began to glow. Then with a shudder he whispered, "Dr. Elias, head researcher at Thornvale's Special Projects Division. He's obsessed with finding more like her." "More like who?" Kael growled, his eyes still glowing. "The woman who escaped. The one with the mark." Rhea stood at the window of her room, watching storm clouds gather on the horizon. Mara had reluctantly shared what little she knew about the captured hunter, but had been called away to assist with a pack member's injury before Rhea could press for details. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She turned to find Kael filling the doorway, his massive frame somehow more imposing than usual, tension evident in the set of his shoulders. "The hunter talked," he said without preamble, stepping into her room. "He was looking for you." Rhea's stomach clenched. "Me specifically?" "Someone with your mark." Kael crossed to stand beside her at the window. "They call it the blood seal, just as our legends do. Thornvale has been studying it, studying you for months." "I still don't remember," Rhea said, frustration coloring her voice. "Just fragments. The lab running through the forest." "The hunter carried this." Kael produced a small cloth bundle from his pocket and carefully unwrapped it, to reveal a broken shard of pale blue stone that seemed to glow from within. "It's how they've been breaching our barrier. Some kind of frequency disruption." Without thinking, Rhea reached for the stone. The moment her fingers made contact, pain lanced through her temple, and the world tilted sideways. Bright lights above a metal table, restraints cutting into her wrists. A bearded man in a white coat leaning over her with a syringe of amber liquid. "The pendant fragment reacts to her blood," the man said to someone out of view. "Cellular compatibility with the artifact is unprecedented." Pain as the needle entered her arm, drawing blood that swirled with unnatural luminescence. "Oracle bloodline confirmed," a clinical voice announced. "Genetic markers match the historical samples." Rhea gasped, stumbling back from the window. Kael caught her before she could fall, his strong hands steadying her shoulders. "What did you see?" he demanded, his face inches from hers. "A lab," she whispered. "They were testing my blood with that stone. They called it an artifact." She became acutely aware of his hands on her shoulders, one palm directly over her mark. Heat bloomed beneath his touch, and suddenly the seal blazed to life, golden light spilling from beneath her tunic and illuminating the room. Kael jerked back with a strangled sound, his eyes flashing from silver to amber and back again. Veins stood out on his neck as he fought against something unseen, his hands clenching into fists. "Kael?" Rhea reached for him, alarmed by the struggle evident on his face. "Don't," he growled, his voice deepening to something barely human. "The wolf, your mark triggered something." The door burst open, and Dorian stood there, hand already reaching for the weapon at his hip, eyes rapidly assessing the situation. "It's fine," Kael managed, though his elongated canines suggested otherwise. "But we need answers about that mark, now." Before Dorian could respond, a messenger appeared behind him, breathless from running. "Alpha, urgent message from the vampire territory," the young man said, holding out a sealed letter bearing an ornate crimson crest. He took the letter, breaking the seal with a flick of his thumb. The messenger makes his way out as Kael reads the letter. Lucien's human proxy at the hospital reports a crisis. Government auditors have discovered irregularities in the blood supply records. Damn it, Kael muttered, visibly forcing his transformation back under control. If their feeding arrangement is compromised, the truce could shatter, Dorian finished grimly. Rhea looked between them, the magnitude of this news evident in their expressions. What hospital? Nightshade Memorial, Dorian explained. The vampires own it, their primary blood source. If humans discover its true purpose, let's just say that will be the discovery of the century, Kael cuts in. Iamara arrives tomorrow by the way. Dorian, double the patrols along the western border. If one hunter penetrated this far, others may follow. He turned to Rhea, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. Perhaps you and I will visit Astrilde before Lucien's emissary arrives. If anyone can make sense of what's happening, it's her. As if punctuating his words, thunder rumbled across the sky, and rain began to patter against the windows. The storm that had been threatening all afternoon had finally arrived. Rhea touched her mark through the fabric of her tunic, feeling it pulse in time with her heartbeat. And if she can't, then we prepare for war, Dorian said quietly. Because whatever Thornvale wants with your blood and that moonstone, it can't be good for Ravengarde. Kael's expression hardened as he turned to the window, watching lightning split the darkening sky. And tomorrow, we discover just how much Lucien truly knows about your mark. Because I'm beginning to think his interest isn't merely diplomatic. The thunder growled again, closer this time, as if nature itself were responding to the tension in the room. Rhea felt the mark on her shoulder burn, a constant reminder that her forgotten past was catching up to her and threatening to engulf them all in its wake.
Next on Ravengarde Chronicles, The Awakening.
As the vampire emissary prepares to depart, she carries 2 missions, one diplomatic, the other secret and far more dangerous. Her arrival at the werewolf stronghold is met with wary hospitality, and hidden tensions simmer just beneath the surface. A seemingly elegant dinner takes a dark turn when a bloodied warrior brings chilling news. And deep in the forest, as storm clouds gather, Rhea faces another terrifying episode. One that leaves more questions than answers.
Next Friday, loyalties will be tested.